Hi guys. Okay, let's talk coronavirus. Um, I wasn't going to make a video about it because everybody and their brother is talking about the coronavirus, and honestly, I'm kind of tired of hearing about it. But the big news today, if you are a Disney fan, Disney announced that they will be closing Disneyland in California and Disney's California Adventures. They will, however, keep downtown Disney, which is the shopping center right outside of both of the parks, open. But beginning on Saturday, they will be closing Disneyland and Disney's California Adventures through at least the rest of the month. I don't know, they haven't announced when they plan to reopen the park, but that's a pretty big deal. Disneyland, since it opened in 1955, has only closed twice. I forget the first time it closed. I know the only other time that I can remember it closing was right after 9/11. Anyway, so that's a pretty big deal. And personally, I think the whole coronavirus thing right now is being blown way out of proportion. The stock market has just crashed unbelievably, and I don't understand why. It's new, this whole novel coronavirus, um, novel just being new, but the corona or COVID-19 is a new strain of a known type of virus, which is called corona. Corona meaning crown, because if you look at it under a microscope, it looks like it has a little halo or a little crown around it. Anyway, it, from what I understand, and I'm not a medical doctor, but from what I understand, it does behave like a flu, except it is more contagious, and it does lead to pulmonary issues, which can lead to in the most severe cases, obviously, it can lead to death. Now, the information is pretty sketchy on what's coming out right now. Obviously, it started in Wuhan, China, and spread. Our president was pretty quick on the draw to set up the travel ban from China about 3 weeks after he found out about it. Most people don't know that he pretty much instituted it right at the end of January, and of course that was when the House was busy trying to impeach him, so we didn't hear too much about it. But anyway, I think he's done a fabulous job, and yesterday he had an address to the nation from the Oval Office announcing a similar travel ban, but he did say it's a 30-day travel ban from Europe, with the exception of the United Kingdom. So anyway, I think that's a great idea. But this whole, closing of sporting events and Disneyland, I understand why they're doing it, but I think it's a bit overblown. The idea right now, we can't really say what the mortality rate is for this virus. There isn't enough information, but what's coming out varies from country to country. We know obviously China has the most deaths, and then I believe it's Italy and then South Korea. We have, the last numbers I heard were between 1,100 and 1,200 known cases of, or verified cases of coronavirus, and we've had about 27 deaths. And the information that I'm reading and hearing is that the most vulnerable are seniors, those over the age of 65, and those with pre-existing medical conditions like COPD, or other types of respiratory ailments. So the interesting thing to me is that although youth and children are carriers or can be carriers, they aren't typically affected severely. They seem to have flu-like symptoms. And I find that fascinating. Nobody can really explain why that is, that they're not impacted as much. Uh, those people that are older, that are between 35 and 65, I've heard just have a range from, they just think they have the regular flu and they get over it, or they end up in a hospital, receive treatment, and recover. I heard today that the recovery rate is about 80%, and that, just have mild to moderate symptoms and recover. The remaining, 20% of those remaining 20%, about 15% can have more severe, they require hospitalization, and only a small minority of people become very, very ill. And those are typically seniors, those about 65 and older that have, again, a pre-existing condition. So, which I'm not denying that is tragic, and nobody wants anybody to die. But I think the extreme measures that are being taken right now, I think personally is just a little bit overblown. I think talking about it, being aware of it, and just practicing overall good hygiene is, to me, the most important thing. About 2 weeks ago, I had the flu, and I didn't go to the doctor. I didn't get tested. And, I had similar symptoms that, I've heard, where, I got kind of the sore throat, where it's kind of, my throat felt swollen, difficult to swallow, followed by, 2 days later, that annoying kind of, every time you take a breath in, it makes you want to cough. I had one night where I had about a half an hour's long fever of 99.8 degrees. And, I took a Tylenol, it went away. The next morning I had no fever. And I stayed off work for 3 days. I went back to work. And now maybe that's irresponsible, but I went back to work with a sniffly nose, and that was it. 14 days later, I'm completely healthy. So, for all I know, I had corona, and maybe I spread it, but nobody else around me. My husband did not get sick. And so I think people are panicking unnecessarily, because whether it was corona or just the flu, most people, if you are healthy, if you, do the things you need to do, wash your hands, don't touch your face, don't go in public if you have a fever, clean your house, clean your things, don't drink out of other people's cups, and, don't share food. I just think that's common sense, and I think we can all stay healthy that way. It's interesting because it's an election year, and I think one party is trying to scare people and the other party is trying to calm people down. And I don't know. I just think it's a whole lot of unnecessary panic. And I think, as our president says, this too shall pass. We just need to behave responsibly, stay home if you're sick, and I think things will get better. I heard an interesting statistic today. I'm sorry, I can't quote where it was from, but people have asked me, well, the flu, they say if you touch something, the flu will stay on the surface for, hours. What about the coronavirus? It's, super easily spread. What, how dangerous is that? And nobody really knows. There was one study done, and I think it was published in The Hill. And it says that if it's airborne, like let's say somebody sneezes in an empty room, they say that the coronavirus can live in the air for up to 3 hours. So that if somebody else comes in and breathes the air, they could get contaminated. And then if it's on a surface, they say it could stay there for up to 3 days. Now, that has not been confirmed. That was one study, and so I don't know, and that's why I think you should clean your stuff. If you're working in an office and you feel sniffly, wipe your desk before you leave, wipe your phone before you leave. And yeah, like I said, I'm not worried about it. I work at a school that has not yet been shut down. There's some talk about what do we do if we have to wait to hear from our not the district office, but those higher up to decide whether or not they're going to close schools. And right now, I'm in Southern California. We have the largest cases of coronavirus throughout the state, but none near us. So we are not doing anything drastic at this point. Yeah, I just wanted to kind of let you know what I've heard and my thoughts on it. Like I said, I think people are blowing it way out of proportion. I think we just need to stay healthy like we normally do, just practice good hygiene. Um, you know, I have relatives that are 70 and older, and you know, I just keep in contact with them, phone, text. When I was ill, I didn't go visit family, you know, but I wouldn't have if it was just the flu, or you know, if I just had a 24-hour bug. It it just makes sense, you know, doesn't it? I mean, if you had a cold and your mom was 75, would you go and give her a hug? You know, no. So just use common sense. And I think people need to calm down. I think there's no need to run out and buy, you know, buy out the Walmart's stock of toilet paper. I heard somebody joking said, you know, coronavirus doesn't give you the runs, so you don't need to stock up on toilet paper. And you know, we do make our own toilet paper. That's not coming from Japan, so or from China, so you know, you should be fine. Um, as far as the mortality rate, I did hear another interesting stat today. Somebody was talking about it that they don't know, they can't say yet. It's too new, I guess. But the numbers or the mortality rate ranges from 0.7% in South Korea to close to 3% in Italy. But the reason that this particular doctor was saying the discrepancy is because of age. What I didn't know is that Italy's population is about 23%, or 23% of their population is over the age of 65. So, you know, the entire northern part of Italy was basically on lockdown, quarantine. And the majority, well, I shouldn't say the majority, no, that's wrong. Almost a quarter of their population is over the age of 65. So naturally, if that is the age group that is most vulnerable, they will see a higher mortality rate. That is not the case in South Korea. They have a younger population, so their mortality rate is going to be much less. Um, Honestly, I don't know what the population demographic is as far as age in the U.S. So I can just okay. We hear all the time that you know the common flu kills more people every year. So you know I've never known anybody to die from the flu. So I'm gonna take this whole coronavirus thing with a grain of salt, and I'm treating it like you know slightly more severe flu, and I'm not worried about it. I think this time next year, by the time flu season rolls around, I think we're going to be close to, if not already have, a vaccine for it. And what I think is funny is we have a vaccine for the flu, and I've never taken a vaccine for the flu. So I just deal with it. If I get sick, I stay home. I drink soup and warm, you know, tea. And yeah, I just think people need to calm down, be responsible. Um, I think the sporting event things closing down and large gatherings closing down, I I think it's honestly, I think it's more of people being afraid of being sued. If they get sick, then they sue the sporting event or venue or the owners. And I think they're more afraid of a lawsuit than actual illness, because it seems like if you're healthy, um, it comes, it goes, you get better. So let's see. Let's see what goes on. I think as people get used to this being a part of their lives, and people start either self quarantining or doing the whole social distancing thing, I think we're going to get used to it, and I think people are going to start behaving a little more like normal. All right, give me your thoughts. Should I have stayed home for a full 14 days from work? Or I don't know. What would you do? Would you stay home? Would you, you know, take 2 weeks off of work? Do you think anybody's going to take advantage of that? Like, hey, I feel a little ill. I might have corona, so I'm going to stay home for 2 weeks. I mean, come on, people are going to totally abuse that. So, anyway, those are just my thoughts. Let me know what you think in the comments below, and hoping everybody feels good. All right, see you later. Bye.